Hi, and thank you for joining me today. I'm Will Brennan, natural lifestyle expert and founder of Desert Mountain Apothecary. My last video was about sleep and why it's so important to have consistent, deep, restful sleep. Today I was going to do a video that was just general advice on how to sleep better using behavior modification. But I realized that there was one factor that overshadowed every other factor, the number one culprit that's keeping most of us from getting a good night's sleep, and that's our tech. The number one thing you can do to get a better night's sleep is to turn off, unplug, and turn down your screens before bed. So the two major culprits of insomnia nowadays are the actual screens, the brightness of the screens, and the stimulating content of what we are engaging in via our devices. And when I say stimulating, I don't mean in an intellectually stimulating way, because usually that's not the case. What I mean is stimulating stress, stimulating emotional distress. It's incredible to me how violent the content is of what most people watch, in their last hours before bed. Also, it's equally stunning to me how people engage in the most divisive social media wars of things that, while maybe very important, they aren't solving whatsoever by engaging in these long, drawn-out social media battles. And those are so counterproductive because they not only, first of all, they make the person engaging in them very upset. They are raising their blood pressure, raising their stress levels, and getting them into a fight or flight mode. That's the last thing you want to do before bed. The end result of this barrage of social media posting and engagement is to make the opposing view dig in further. We're far beyond the day and age where people are going to change their mind about their views. In my opinion, pretty much everyone is set in their view, and the more you try to change it, the more they dig in, and the more they take your protestations as evidence of why they're right. So this is just so counterproductive. I was so surprised when certain friends of mine told me about their social media activities, because I'm not a social media person. I truly think that it is detrimental and could be the death of our civilization. Things have gotten so much worse in our country and the globe because of social media. There are good things on social media and there are positive aspects of it, but it's so overshadowed by the negative. And we're living in a world where social media has unmasked the most negative, aggressive, violent, and hateful feelings within people, and they've given them free license to bring them to the surface rather than suppress them. And usually I'd say it's not good to suppress emotions, but probably is better to suppress hatred and just an aggressive reductive stance on issues. And that's really what social media does. It reduces very complex issues into angry little bullet points. And the world is much more complicated than that. That is the world. The issues of the day have been long in the making. They are very complex, and by getting so dug into one point, you'll never understand the other side to have a deeper understanding of why they thought that way. So, in terms of specific actions that I suggest taking, the number one thing to do to get a better night's sleep is to, at least 1 hour before bed, turn off your screens. The laptop, the phone, the tablet, the television. These four things, we all probably tune into one in particular that's our bad habit. For some people, it's the phone. Even when they're in bed, they're still on their phone. or they sleep with the TV on, or I mean, for me, it's the laptop. The whole world opens up to you for better and worse when you open up that screen. But when you're trying to get to sleep, that is that's not helpful at all. You have a specific goal and you're deviating completely from that goal. That goal is to get a good night's sleep so that you can wake up refreshed and actually execute what you need to do the next day. So, 1 hour before bed, if not earlier, the earlier you can do this, the better. Put your phone where you can't see it. It's a great time to read a book, do something soothing. In my next video, I'll be talking about lifestyle and health modifications for getting a better night's sleep. So those are all great activities to be doing in that hour where you are cutting the cord from your screen that you're so addicted to. So the next suggestion is taking the TV out of your bedroom. I think that we are fools to have TVs in our bedroom. We're having this giant light and sound producing device that is bombarding us with information, and particularly when it comes to putting on cable news or, for example, a really violent TV show. I mean, the most popular shows of the day are extremely violent. And of course, people at the end of the day, they're tired. They're just want to veg out and watch TV, but I think they're making a huge mistake putting on these really violent series that, yeah, everyone wants to talk about them at the water cooler, but you have to keep your eyes on the prize. Getting a good night's sleep is so important. In my last video, I discussed all the different facets of life that are either negatively or positively affected by sleep. So I will say that I did not win the battle in my own household to get the TV taken out of the bedroom. And, sometimes I actually cover up my forehead and my eyes when the TV is on in the bedroom and I'm trying to sleep, because what I'm doing, and this is why the screens are so bad for our sleep cycle, I'm covering up my pineal gland. Now, that is known as the third eye on your forehead. The pineal gland is responsible for your daily and seasonal waking and sleeping cycle. So the daily cycle is called the circadian rhythm. We are naturally evolved to wake up when the sun rises and go to sleep when it's dark. In our evolutionary history, before electrified lighting and even before we mastered fire, any light at night would have been extremely important to pay attention to, and you'd have to wake up immediately, because it would be two things. It would be lightning or it would be a wildfire. So either way, you would have to wake up immediately, because light at night would mean threat. But now we have an electrified world and we never have complete darkness. So our evolutionary biology is running counter to our reality now, where we have as much lighting as we possibly could ever want. Now we have no trigger for our circadian rhythm to go into its sleeping cycle. The biggest thing that you can do to help yourself sleep is to keep your bedroom dark. So if you have any of these devices, immediately you're not doing that because the screens are so bright. They're supposed to be bright, but it's not good for us to be blasting ourselves with light at night. And I definitely suggest getting some mood lighting going on in the house. Those last couple hours before bed, keep the lights low. Do everything you can to bring yourself into the most restful, peaceful state possible. Now, some of us are clock watchers. We can't sleep and we just watch the clock and think about the diminishing time. Think about the scanty hours of sleep that we will get if we do fall asleep, and it's a trigger to keep waking up. So I suggest hiding your clock just slightly out of view, and I really suggest anything with a bright LCD display to cover that up somehow at night or unplug it. And obviously you need your alarm clock, but if you can just put something over the LCD display at night, that's going to be a big help. During the day, those LCD displays are not very bright, but in a dark room, they're very bright. And they usually have that weird neon cast, and that, for me anyway, that really wakes me up. My last suggestion for reining in your tech and getting a better night's sleep is turning your phone to do not disturb mode. Do not disturb mode is such a good little bit of technology because it keeps everything extraneous from brightening your screen and making an alert. But you can set exceptions, like a contact list that includes your family members, your neighbors, and the people closest to you that need to get to you in an emergency, so you have the best of both worlds. You don't have a lot of extraneous notifications and alerts coming up, and you're still available in case of an emergency. In my mind, so many of the things that brighten our phones overnight that are just coming in are really inconsequential. They tend to be notifications from apps, junk email, someone likes a post on a social media feed. That is no reason to brighten your phone. And even if you may not wake up fully, you're still diminishing your sleep because you're altering the light level. You have a reason to tune into that. Our bodies are designed for survival. They're designed to identify threats, decide whether to counter the threat through fighting and eliminating it or fleeing. So anything that's stimulating that fight or flight response is obviously going to wake us up because our bodies are simply trying to live to the next day. But we're not living in a hut in the bush. Most of us, God willing, are in a safe, comfortable American home where there is little to any threat. But we're tricking our minds into feeling threatened. We're cultivating a sense of distress when we really don't have to. And ultimately paying the cost, paying the price. And you think, well, I'm the only one that pays that price. But what about being grumpy and miserable the next day and being in a foul mood? How does that affect the people around you, your family, your coworkers? Thank you so much for listening. I hope that everyone listening really, really takes to heart what I'm suggesting to rein in their tech and get a better night's sleep. Turn off, unplug, down your screens, and truly try to connect into your deepest sense of self to cultivate that peaceful, serene, sleepy state. Because something I used to think was that wakefulness, happiness, tiredness, any of these sensations that we feel, they were something that came externally onto us. But now I understand that we create these sensations within ourselves. When in the morning, we actually create wakefulness. And yes, coffee and caffeine help that. But more than anything, it's the association with them. But really, we can do it all on its own. Same with going to sleep. But we don't know how. It's difficult. It's unfamiliar. And we're used to getting what we want without making any changes or sacrifices. That's one of the really big fallacies of our civilization. And like I said in my last video, one of the biggest examples of this is sleeping pills. That you can do every single thing to wake yourself up. You can have all these bad behaviors, but then you can take a pill and pass out and be absolved from anything you do. But you don't actually get a good night's sleep. You don't get the full REM cycle, restorative sleep. So you may think that you have countered nature and countered all your bad behavior, but ultimately you're still losing out. The only thing that you're truly, the only real gain that you're having is that you're not lying in your bed awake all night.